My name is
Jenny.
David.
Lila.
Laurel.
Jen.
Lisa.
Dino.
Ari.
Kyle.
I was a
Jehovah's Witness.
Jehovah's Witness.
FLDS.
In the Amish church.
The chosen people.
I was a Scientologist.
I grew up a Mooney, a member of the Unification Church.
2x2.
And I am
Shunned.
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 Shunned. Shunned.
Shunned.
My name is Mikey. I'm 37 years old. I was a Jehovah's Witness and I am shunned.
All right, Mikey. So how'd you come to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses in the first place?
So my father was an alcoholic and my mom said, a Jehovah's Witness came to my father's door.
Hmm.
And he's like, I don't know about this, but he's like, after being an alcoholic, my mom's like, you need to find something. So he went with Jehovah's Witnesses. And I was born after.
Okay, so your mom thought that maybe
She
getting religion would fix him in some way or help the alcoholism?
She found it because, she didn't find it, but she found it good because it was either that or AA, kind of. Like, those are the two things that seem to really push against no alcohol or minimal, like, not getting drunk.
Mm-hmm.
And he thought AA was too culty. So he went with Jehovah's Witnesses because back then it seemed like a religion.
Yes. Well, I mean, it is interesting. And a lot of people will say that AA is rather culty.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes something kind of culty to overcome something that is culty, like an addiction, right?
Yeah.
You replace one addiction with another addiction, so to speak.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
He just found the Jehovah's Witness addiction. And Jehovah's Witnesses, that doctrine and everything around it kind of takes over your whole life. It becomes the way you think, the way you behave. And so that pressure, I'm sure there are probably people out there that it's helped. So I'm sure we'll talk about that. Do you feel like it helped him at all with his alcoholism?
Yeah, because one of the things I remember being like maybe between 4 and 5, like he had like a judicial meeting of some sort because he was like on the stand or whatever. I just remember me and my sisters and my mom like having to go, and they're like, and then he was like, okay, I'm not going to drink at all. Okay. And then he like really dove into Jehovah's Witnesses.
Okay. So the addiction to switched strongly over to the cult of Jehovah's Witnesses. But was he, just out of curiosity, of course we'll go through your story, but was he able to, did that help him to get away from alcohol?
Yeah, he stopped drinking. Like he's had like maybe one act, like because he has Alzheimer's now, so he like forgot he wasn't supposed to drink.
Okay.
But he hasn't drank for like forever.
Good for him. I mean, it does go to show that there are things that sometimes people do get from being one of Jehovah's Witnesses. I think they could find that thing elsewhere in a healthier way, but they do sometimes, even a broke clock is right twice a day, right? So there are some things that sometimes you can find from that broken experience, so to speak, and perhaps it can help eventually. And I'm glad that it helped him to overcome something that was clearly a struggle in his life. Again, wish maybe it would have been in a different way, but it is what it is.
It's like AA, it's like just you that goes all the time. It's like Jehovah's Witnesses, like just you, your family go all the time. It's like going to AA but dragging your family with you.
Oh, that's a very good point. It then brings everyone into the addiction that is there to overcome the initial addiction. Okay. So then you were raised in it. This is all you ever knew. Can I ask, do you just the makeup of your family? Is it just you, or do you have siblings and your mom and your dad? Who is it?
So I have two older sisters, and they like we moved when I was 7, and like they just stopped going, so they didn't go. Then there's my mom and my dad, and my mom didn't go. So it was like we moved to Florida, and there's like me and my dad, and that's it. They go, and you don't go.
Okay. So when you all made this move, it sounds like
My mom wanted to get away from cliques because you know how that is in Jehovah's Witnesses.
okay.
And my dad's like, let's make a big move. Like, let's move to Florida. Your family's in Florida, and it's hot there because he has arthritis from his work.
Okay. So you all ended up, so you all started out somewhere else, not Florida, and ended up moving to Florida. So your mom, was she going to the meetings up until you said it was like 7 when you moved? Was she and your sisters, they were involved until that move?
So, from what I remember, they were kind of involved before the move, or if not, they weren't. But I remember never like they always fought not to go. So I doubt they were really ever involved.
Okay.
But I was born into it, so it was always around.
All right. So it was more presence in your life. And then it sounds like once you
Yeah,
hit that move, now
yeah,
it's just you and your dad going,
yeah.
uh, which I would assume did that put a lot of pressure on you because now you're the only one going?
Kind of, yeah. It's like I'm trying to save you, and you're the only. I got one more chance, I guess you would.
Okay.
1 out of 3.
So being raised that way and your dad is trying to save you and the others are not being saved, did you look at your mom and sisters? Were you worried about them? Were you like, "Oh no, mom and my sisters, they're gonna die in a fiery Armageddon"?
It was confusing because I never thought of it that way. I never thought of them like dying off or whatever.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I'm like, because I always was like, I don't get this. Like, it, I don't quite understand this. Like, even in elementary school, they don't really like Jehovah's Witnesses doesn't work with education. Like, you learn about dinosaurs, and then you're like, this doesn't make sense. But yeah, like it was annoying growing up like that because like I grew up in the 90s before internet. So it wasn't like information was easily readable, like available. So it's like, you're a little kid and you're like, how's the rainbow created? Jehovah created it. How are the sky blue? Jehovah. I'm like, this is a lame answer right now. It's like everything is just the one and only answer. Jehovah did it. It's like, what?
So as a kid, you had doubts as to whether what you were being taught was real?
Yeah.
Hmm.
It was Yeah, because it's kind of like, and then you see patterns and different things, and you're like, this doesn't line up,
Okay. Uh, so
or, well, that's from like the religion side, but like in it, like you see like the people, and they are all super happy. So you're like, I guess this is okay.
okay. So just because they seem happy, it's like, well, there must be something good here.
Yeah,
Um,
because they're always happy. Every best life ever.
oh yes, 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 yes. So so you were going to, what was the worldview that it gave you then as you were, going to school or just looking at the world around you as a little kid? Uh, do you think they were missing out? Did you feel special? Were you looking for, it
So
doesn't sound like the Armageddon thing really was hitting you. So what was it? What was your view of the world outside of this thing you were involved in?
I had a confusing worldview because there's the Jehovah's Witness side, but there's also like I'm kind of seeing the worldly side, like according to Jehovah's Witnesses, the worldly side, the outside. So it's like we have family here. So my mom has family and she's Spanish. So she like my mom, she was one of my grandma had one kid, but my great aunt had 10 kids.
Oh wow.
So I have a lot of cousins. Everyone's a cousin. So I am like, and it's like there's like once my family gets together, it's like 30 or more people.
And
And
so then you were exposed to two different worlds, a world outside of Jehovah's Witnesses and the world inside with your dad.
yeah. And we would like my dad, like, because we lived in St. Pete at one point, and that's where all the other family, like, we would go to the birthday, like if my cousins had a birthday, but you have to walk and exclude yourself or you can't sing the birthday song and you can't have cake, but you're at the birthday.
So you and your dad would solely exclude yourselves?
My dad would exclude himself, and I'm like looking like,
Ooh.
am I supposed to do that?
Yeah, so you're caught in between and you don't know
Yeah,
what you're supposed to do.
yeah. So, and then as because we're here in Florida, we moved from Kansas to Florida, and it's like, you have that family, but you still are going to Jehovah's Witness meetings where they're like, if you get disfellowship, everyone shuns you. Or I would see one of the other kids like they're getting like shunned because they got caught smoking a cigarette, and then you go over to their house and they're like, there's like, oh, like even them because they grew up like you can't talk to me. I'm being shunned right now. And I'm like freaking out because I'm like, oh my God, is this what happens when you get in trouble? But my worldview does that mean like all of my family does this? Like everyone or what?
Did you feel like you were gonna need to shun the rest of your family? Like if you're shunning a little
Oh,
JW kid because he smoked, did you worry that you're gonna have to shun somebody else because they smoked?
it wasn't, well, from my side, I was like, I didn't like the shunning and I thought it was stupid, but I was afraid other people were going to shun me.
So you were just looking at this as a potential inevitability for you moving forward that your life would end up the same.
Yeah, like, because it's not hard to get in trouble in Jehovah's Witnesses.
No,
It's a pretty easy thing to do.
absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit then about your life growing up and some of the different aspects of life. So, what was your home life like? What was, did you all have a happy time? Everybody getting along, or was it kind of chaotic? It sounds like it was at least somewhat confusing just because you're caught between two worlds.
Um, so it was interesting. Like it was happy, like we were happy. I was happy and everything, but at the same time, it was confusing. Like going to school, like I I got bullied in kindergarten. I probably think it was like saying like there's no Santa,
Mm.
and then the kids are all mad at you. It's like I can't think of anything else I could have done.
Okay, so you're being taught things that you're going to parrot at school
Yeah,
because
that's when I learned like okay, don't talk about that at school
now,
because
did
they
you still
don't.
have to in order to not participate in certain things that were going on?
So I don't remember before, but when I moved into Florida, like in second grade, like they said like yeah, he can't do. They told my teacher. And then I did third grade and they told my teacher. And then I didn't really do well in third grade. So I got held back and I redid that grade. But that time it was a whole new group of kids. And we didn't like I couldn't have my birthday, but I could like have a birthday cake or have a cupcake if they brought them for other people's birthday.
Whoa, that's very, yeah, that is very confusing. So birthdays are bad is just if they're mine. They're okay if they're
Yeah,
somebody
so
else's.
my birthday is bad, but everyone else's birthday, we're gonna have a cupcake.
Ooh,
Just like I wasn't like I couldn't like the salute the flag thing. It's like the first like in the before I got held back, I sat. After I came forward, I just stood. You're not as they don't point you out as much if you just stand with everyone else.
yeah, you find the ways to make things a little less obvious
Mm-hmm.
over time because everybody just wants to fit in. It's brutal to have to be excluded or feel different all the time, especially as a kid. Uh, so did you have any friends at school? Did you feel like you fit in there?
So, um, let's see. Like in I would have some friends like but they're just at school. And like in middle school is different, but in like elementary school, never hung out. Like I hung out with one person one time, and it was for a school project, and we had to do it. Like I couldn't get out of the school project, so I had to hang out with someone for one.
Okay.
I was like that. I was like, I want to do that more.
So you did want to do that more?
Yeah, it was kind of like it was kind of weird because like I liked being alone and like doing my own thing and stuff, but at the same time, like it's like maybe if I hung out with people, it would have been cool.
Well, yeah, it could have been
So
nice
there was
to have some friends. Did you not have friends at the hall or anything?
so I had at that like at that age I had two or three friends. I had like two guy friends. Most of the kids were girls. But it was funny because one of my friends, um, I was calling TJ. We're like 7, 8, okay? And like at TJ's house, he had all sorts of swords. His parents let him play with swords and knives, so we had plastic swords and knives. And at our other friend Jake's house, his parents would let him play with Nerf guns and like toy guns. But I couldn't have any of them at my house. So we'd go to their houses and they have like playrooms like for their stuff, like to have like just the kids to go off into. I don't think my parents ever looked in the playrooms because we had like guns in one and we had swords in the other and they had no idea.
If you'd like some extra content, if you'd like to learn more about our guests today, maybe even have an opportunity to connect further with them, you can do so by joining the back room tier at patreon.com/shunned. Had they have looked into the gun room, into the toy room and seen the guns or swords, would you have been allowed to go back over there?
No.
Yeah, yeah. I'm glad they never knew then, so at least you got to have some fun as a kid and have some friends. I guess that means you have friends come over to your house?
I would have friends come over to my house sometimes, but mostly we went over to others.
Okay. Uh, so it sounds like it was maybe somewhat isolating to grow up that way.
Yeah, it was kind of isolating and like I could yeah, so
At least when it comes to your peers.
yeah.
I'm sure that so for instance, what was life like at the Kingdom Hall for you? Did you have a lot of people around you there?
Um so like 7 to 10, there was a kind of a group of kids, like but I only hung out with like one guy. I would only hang out with like one person at a time and like for a while and then they would get like tired of me, I guess, or we just move on to the next person. And then like
did you have somebody to move on to?
not after a while.
Okay.
So I was like off. Then I hung out with the girls some. You can get in trouble that way.
Yeah, I was going to ask. You said earlier that there were a couple boys there that you were friends with, and you said, well, of course, there were some girls, almost acting like they were excluded. I know growing up in my area, boys and girls did not interact really. They were kind of kept separate
Mm-hmm.
because that was seen as trouble that would be brewing. Was there a point at which there was a crossover and everybody started hanging out?
Um, I think I was the only one that did.
Oh, really?
Everyone else didn't, but I had sisters, so I'm like, this seems normal to me.
They're supposed to be your spiritual sisters, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, why not? You should be able to hang out with brothers or sisters.
Yeah. I had one girl like seek me out though. That got us into trouble.
She did what with you?
She like went after me kind of.
Oh, okay. And so that
Because parents
resulted.
don't like it's weird about Jehovah's Witness parents. They don't like they're like it's kind of like they expect you to like self watch yourself.
Oh,
Like
yes.
you're not gonna sin because you know God's not gonna let you into like after arm like into his kingdom.
Yes, they expect you to self-report to uh well really just it's your own self-discipline, right? You're not going to put
Yeah.
yourself in certain situations or enjoy things that would maybe even be natural for people to enjoy. You're supposed to crush those things inside yourself just like they would crush them externally. So I guess did you end up, I don't know, getting in a were you old enough to be baptized or anything? Did you get in a little judicial meeting or just get called into the elders room in the back?
So let's see. So like I wasn't. I got an unbaptized like 13 or 14 because like everyone else was, but they didn't like our group of friends. I guess you would say it's like snitches. Snitches get stitches because no one would tell on each other.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, like no one would rat each other out because everyone had something.
Mutually assured destruction.
Yeah, it's like if you get in trouble, then it's like, well, how did they know that? It's like, well, you're gonna get the next person in trouble. It's just a big domino of everyone getting in trouble.
Sure. So you learn to keep each other's secrets.
Yeah, but so we it was like there was some things we would have got in trouble for, but no one found out. And then like one kid from another like he moved to our hall and like someone said something and like he overheard something and then he rats us out to the elders and it's like the one time someone new comes and everyone it's like something bad happens.
I'm sure that made him popular.
Yeah, I think he left that like group, like that hall and went to another after that.
I would imagine. So for yourself growing up in the Kingdom Hall, were you active? Like were you and your dad, I guess it was just the two of you. So were you present at every meeting? Were you active participants in commenting and giving talks and going out in service and all the things?
Oh yeah, like I was like from I like from 7 at least till up till almost 18 like it was meeting like that's what I knew. Like I knew like those are the time slots in the day that I have to be there. But like as soon as I turned 12, I started realizing that it doesn't change. I'm like, I remember this book from before, or this article seems like it's kind of like deja vu. It's like I read this before, and you're like, where? It's like, oh, here. And I just realized around then, like, I don't have to study for this. It's easy. I can just underline it at the meeting, and I don't have to do any of this preparation because it's so simple and it's not complicated.
Well, that is very true, and they knew that they were. I mean, that's part of the brainwashing, right? They're giving you
Yeah.
simple information over and over and over and over again to drill it into your head, with that repetition for emphasis, as they would
Hmm.
say, and there just really isn't any change. So you're just running on that hamster wheel constantly. It kind of turns off your brain and makes you stop thinking and just keep regurgitating what's brought into you.
Yeah. And like, because growing up in it, it's like they make it seem like this isn't just the truth, this is fact. Like, this is the real thing, man. Like, all that stuff you hear in the news, that's bullshit.
Hmm.
The Bible is the truth, and we found it.
Well, not just the Bible, but their
Their
specific
Bible.
interpretation of it, right?
Yeah. And it was weird because, like, between like not like 10 and 12, I was like, is this real? Like, going to the kingdom, I'm like, are we like, because they're so happy like every time I go there, and I'm like, everyone else is miserable. Did I come into this place? I'm like, but I am miserable in this place. Why are they so happy? I'm like, oh my.
Well, and then if you were to know the real stories of
Oh,
those people, you would know that that's not how they are most of the time.
oh, I love it because like two of the kids at the hall, two of my friends, our boys, came over to my house, and one of them, like, he was like, I felt like he was in it, but the other one was like a star. He was the star of like the Kingdom Hall. His dad was an elder, and he was the example of for a young man to be. And like, they came over and we're swimming in my parents' pool, and the other one, like, he like grabbed his leg and he's like almost fell, and the guy goes, "Fuck you!" I was like, "Oh my god, he's." I'm like, everything he's done at the Kingdom Hall is probably fake. I was
Oh,
like,
you
that's,
saw another little side of that person that doesn't come out at the Kingdom Hall, right?
yeah, and it was just like, okay. I'm like, I guess you can do that.
Yeah, everybody looks like um
I'm like, that's how they do it. They just, at the Kingdom Hall, they're happy, and then everywhere else, they do whatever they want. They just never get reported, and it's okay.
sure. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on behind closed doors at every Kingdom Hall. The poor elders know about a lot of things that
Hmm.
they otherwise would probably rather not know about at times. Um, Getting
But
involved in everybody's drama.
yeah, because like when I was a kid, like I was looking through family pictures, and I have one, like, I was like 3, and it's like me in a suit, and I have a little bow tie,
Hmm.
and it says on the back, like, it's in Spanish because it was my grandma's, but it says like meeting. So I'm like, oh, this is for a meeting. I was like, but it's like that's how like far back. But it's like, I remember going out in service, and like someone, like, I was probably 7 or 8 because like I just moved here to Florida, and someone was like, "You're in a cult." I'm like, "I'm in a cult." And I was like, "No, you're not in a cult." I'm like, "I'm in a cult."
So
I'm
just
like, "What's
being
a cult?"
told no, you're not in a cult did not suffice.
Yeah, I'm like, "What's a cult?" I'm like, "Are we gonna die?"
No,
I'm like,
Mikey, you're never going to die.
yeah, it's like, no, we're living forever in a paradise Earth with pandas.
Yes. Uh, so
But
was there any part of it that you did really kind of believe? Obviously, seeing the quote happy people at the Kingdom Hall did have an impact on you to some degree, but did you ever attach to the doctrine at all?
it's kind of like that. I've learned the word like cognitive dissonance
Oh, yes.
for it, because like I'm like, like when I left it, I was like, I'm an atheist and all this other stuff. But it's like it took me over 10 years to like tell my therapist I grew up a Jehovah's Witness. So it's kind of like that. It was scared because of how I grew up for all that time.
Hmm.
and they're like, the end is coming any minute, any minute.
So cognitive dissonance is that feeling that you feel when you hold one thing to be true and something else comes along that threatens that deeply held truth,
Yeah,
and it creates an inner anxiety, tension, pain, and you often will throw that new truth away because it's inconvenient to the one that you've been holding. For you, it sounds like you always maybe had doubts and weren't sure about whether it was the concept of God in general or the Bible or any of this stuff.
hmm,
You just, but you were given a belief system and held to that. So your own thoughts became the threat.
yeah, and it's kind of like fighting your. It was kind of like
Yeah,
fighting yourself
it is.
because I'm like, no, I'm like, this doesn't make sense. But it's like, yeah, but you were told this your whole life. It has to be right. So it's always like battling that feeling, like, because it's kind of like they always told you like your gut is wrong. So it's like it's kind of like it's like growing up for a long, like spending 16 years where they're like, what your decision will be wrong if you don't go our way. Like your gut instinct, even though it says Jehovah's Witnesses are wrong, it's wrong.
I mean, that's just one of the really, really, really dangerous parts of Jehovah's Witnesses because I mean, take it towards child sex abuse, things like that.
Yeah,
You're teaching people to not trust their own instincts, to not trust their own thoughts, their feelings, their intuition, and to constantly push that away and to take on whatever somebody else tells you to feel. And that's super dangerous.
yeah. And it's just that whole kind of like you're like it's kind of like feeling like you were acting or playing this part because you're like, this isn't me, but this is how I have to do it so I don't get like everyone excommunicate me. And then it's like eventually, for me especially, it was like eventually it just was like, this is too much. I don't even care if I get excommunicated. I'm just done.
But it was seeing those other kids get shunned
Yeah,
that made you so nervous to ever be yourself because you didn't want you were afraid of that. Obviously, at some point, like you said, fuck it, let's go, whatever. But
yeah,
uh, it had to. I'm sure it took a lot to get to that point. That's not an easy thing to do.
yeah. Cause like I saw that like when I was 12 or 13, and then it's like I left at 18. And I was like, I got baptized at 17.
A short-lived baptism.
Yeah, it was a very tiring year. Like it's because like I was an unbaptized publisher. You get to run mics. It's like they're like, here, run a mic because you're young, and then you don't have to pay attention to the meeting because you're running a mic. But then they're like, you get baptized, and I'm like, I didn't want to get baptized, so I got baptized at the end. And it's like, oh, now you have to give a prayer, and you have to do this, and you have to give other talks, and oh no.
Yeah, the pressure really ramps up as for a young male once they
And
get baptized.
and I found it really tiring because it's like it's like you just work like this. It's kind of like working a full-time job that you aren't getting paid for, and you're just like it's just making your life miserable.
Mhm.
And then then you have to go and do another job to on top, like a real job, so you can support the governing body and everyone else.
Yes. So can I ask what was it that led to you? You said you kind of waited to the end and got baptized, no, waiting until the before you were a legal adult at 18. So you got baptized at 17. But what pushed you? Why did you get baptized?
So around then, I don't even know if it was. It could have been aimed at me because local needs talks are aimed at people, but there was a lot of local needs talks about how there's local needs talks about shunning people and not talking to those that are non-believers. And then there's local needs talks about being baptized and moving forward, kind of like. And my dad was like, he's like all pepped up after the meeting and everything, after singing the last song. And it's like, oh, that was so exciting. And I can't wait for you to be baptized and you can go be a regular publisher and a pioneer. And I'm like, I don't want to do this. Oh my God.
Okay.
Like,
So
but
you didn't want to do it, but you did. So
but it was but he would be going on, he's like, and if you don't do it, I don't, it's kind of like, if you don't do it, I don't know what's gonna happen to you. But if you follow this path, you can hang out with us and you can survive. Because it's like, you can't because I'm looking at it I'm good at numbers, and I'm like, even then I can be like, without knowing the math, I'm like, I couldn't survive on my own. I'm like, there's no way. So I feel stuck, pressured to like continue, because it's like, otherwise I'm gonna be homeless.
so you kind of took it because there's something that probably people on the outside don't always understand is the tremendous pressure on kids to get baptized. That there's not only the fear of your God killing you if you believe in that doctrine, if you're not found on the right side at Armageddon, but there's this, you've watched everyone around you get shunned. People just disappear and are never heard from again. People get
Yeah.
kicked out of their houses. So you're afraid of, how can I survive if this all comes crashing down because I don't do this thing? If you're feeling stuck in your life after cult involvement and can't find the life you want, leaving a cult is a new beginning on a path to healing, not some magical end itself that is healing. Relief from the immediate pain feels good at first, but that's not necessarily true happiness. The feelings of social awkwardness and isolation, lack of self worth, perfectionism, patterns of being attracted to emotionally unavailable people, not even knowing who you are yourself, all of these things and more are lingering effects of that environment. Being in a cult isn't just following a doctrine, but it's following a culture, a way of life, a way of being that doesn't just go away because you stopped attending meetings. If you want to shortcut the path to healing instead of trying to figure it out on your own, maybe even work with me professionally in my cult recovery coaching practice, you can find opportunities to do that and also for other cool resources at my website, exjwhelp.com. That's exjwhelp.com.
But it was also not just like kids that I saw being shunned, but I saw, like, after you're 18, I saw what they do to you after 18. Like, I saw adults that are like, I don't, it's like, what happened to so and so? He doesn't come, so he got kicked out. It's like, oh my fucking God.
Yeah. People
I'm
just
like,
lose their
and they're
safety.
just like, I don't talk to him anymore. I'm like, shit, man, this sucks.
Yeah, you didn't want that to be you. So that what kind of pushed you to get baptized, realizing that you I guess you didn't want to lose your dad and lose your home?
So from my worldview, I would lose my family, because Jehovah's Witnesses say family.
That's true.
They say family. They don't say the group. They don't say you're this just Jehovah's Wit. They don't say just Jehovah's Witnesses, because this is what we believe. They say family, like everyone will do this. So I took it like my mom's family will do it. My mom will do it. My dad will do it. Everyone will do it, because that's what family is. So I took the literal word. And then, like, after I turned 18, and I was like, fuck you all, I don't want to do this anymore. And my dad's like, do you want to go to Jehovah's? I'm like, no. He's like, oh, okay. And he just like walked away. I'm like, that's the invisible fence. I could have said that all along. I'm like, fuck. And
Yeah.
then I felt guilty, because I'm like, if I say that to my mom, she'll be pissed at him.
If you say
because
what to your mom?
because because she was like, you don't have to do this. You have a choice. But I'm like, I don't really have a choice, because they're saying I'll be shunned by everyone. So I never got that connection that she can do what she wants and you're not ruled by Jehovah's Witnesses, because that's what my dad's showing.
No, I get that. And
Yeah.
also,
But once I
your
did
whole
walk
life.
away, yeah, I was in a cult my whole life. But once I did walk away, it's like the invisible gate went down, and it's like, yeah, that was all. Like, there wasn't really anything there. You could have done that all along, but you didn't.
Well, true. But you probably also, can I ask, just personally for you,
Mm,
was there any element in there of, I don't know, you just want to make your dad happy, or you just want to make your
yeah,
dad proud of you?
yeah, and that was another thing. Was like that was my like for the longest. Like I kind of feels like that was my dad's. Like I did it. Like I got one son baptized, and he was super happy about like that.
Well, yeah, you just
Yeah,
wanted to bond with your dad kind of over this thing.
so yeah,
I mean, that's normal, right?
yeah.
We all want our parents to see us, feel us, validate us, understand us, be proud of us.
Yeah, and it wasn't like everything was horrible. Like we went like because like I did the homeschooling thing through high school, which wasn't I just dropped out, but you call it homeschooling. But we went to like there's a place called Adventure Island over here by me in Tampa.
Mhm.
And we went to the water parks a lot. We had a lot of fun. Like I got to spend time and do stuff outside of just going door to door. Saturdays I had to go door to door, but we would go like Friday we would go to the water park.
And who was we?
Me and my dad.
Oh, so just the two of you.
Yeah,
So the two of you really palled around a lot, it sounds like. A lot of
yeah.
it
We
had to
did
do with
a
the Kingdom Hall, but also outside
but
of the Kingdom.
also outside. We went like we had a boat. We went on the boat and stuff. Did fishing. So we did other stuff. It wasn't just Kingdom Hall, but
Can I ask, did you and your dad going to the meetings? I mean, I don't know at what point maybe your sisters had left the house, but I'm kind of envisioning like you and your dad over here, your mom and your sisters over here. Like, did it create any kind of a rift or a divide at all, or were you all still pretty cohesive as a family?
so we're cohesive, but at the same time, I was like, I don't want to go because, like, I don't want to, like, they don't have to go. Why can't you have to go? I'm like, I don't understand why you have to go. It's like, there's no answer. It's just like, you're coming with me.
Okay, okay. So
But, like,
just the day-to-day family stuff was cool and everybody was one big family. But when it came to the meetings, suddenly you had to leave the family to go with
yeah,
your dad to do the thing, even though you didn't want to.
yeah.
Okay.
So, and it's kind of like, like, I could like my dad was he's a really friendly guy and everything. Like I could like he at one time really believed in it. Like he really like because he like I remember like them at the because like him at the Kingdom Hall and the other people they're like this is the best thing we got so I might as well do this. Like there's nothing like everywhere everything in the world sucks so we might as well just do this thing that sucks a little less. Like
Well, or it's supposed to lead to less sucking in the future
yeah.
when the paradise comes.
It's like because the world sucks, you chose Jehovah Witnesses because they suck less. I'm like, they suck.
So did so you went through this, you eventually got baptized. Can I ask, were there any moments or anything that happened, let's say up to your baptism throughout your life there that maybe you wanted to make sure you touched on, something that occurred or any seminal moments?
So, well, there's a few there's some moments off throughout, but like I remember growing up in it and going door to door
Mhm.
and being in the car with these people, and they're like, you know, if this person doesn't accept the truth and the new system, I want their house. Or I
That's
hope
an
to I
awful one.
or I hope to get, they wouldn't say like I want, but they're like I hope to get this house. Like, you know, I'm like, are you a monster? What the hell does that mean?
Isn't that
But they're
crazy? You're basically wishing the person dead. Man, I can't wait until Jehovah murders this person so I can live in their house. That's a really
yeah,
beautiful view they have.
yeah. I'm like, is that what we're doing out here? Like, deciding which houses to claim after they're gone. Like, whoa, man. I'm like, I think you took this like the wrong direction. Like, you're supposed to be happy and like not wishing them death at
You're
the
supposed
same
to help them.
time. Yeah, it's weird. I don't know, but I remember that was a big thing growing in the door to door, a moment with them. I remember going door to door with my dad, and I felt sick, but I skipped 2 times before this, going on Saturday, going door to door because I said I was sick. And this time came up. I'm like, I feel sick. My stomach hurts. And he was like, no, 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 you have to go. I don't believe you. And he took me, and and then I'm like arguing with him. I'm like, I feel sick. I don't want to go. So we go return visits. We do return visits, just him and me, because I said I felt sick and everything. So we go to the first store, and I'm like, I can't go. So I sit in the car, and he goes to the first store. And as he goes to the first door, I look at him, and as he gets there, I turn to his side and I throw up all over his feet.
He should
So
have taken me out in service when I told you I was sick.
yeah, and then like he comes back and he's like, I'm like, oh my God, I'm like not sure what to do. I'm like, I just threw up on his feet, and he comes back, he's like, yeah, like I shouldn't have taken you out. He had to it had like this little wicker, like it was like this little convertible. He had to like take with leather seats. He had to take the wicker off of it, and he's like sitting in vomit, driving us home. He had to wash his car out after that.
Did he listen to you next time you said you were sick at your stomach?
Yes.
That's funny. All the
But
little moments. Do you
yeah,
have any others?
but when I was like near the end, like when I was 17, almost 18, like around, no, I was 18. Like, yeah, it's like 17 on the edge, like just after 18. Because I left when I was like a little, like 18 and a half. One of my friends, someone came down from another place, and he was basically like, everyone said he was like my twin because we acted so similar. And, but he had like a nervous breakdown, and they're like, oh, you're like, and but we did like everything together, but we got into a lot of trouble together. Like he would drink, like we got in trouble with drinking and stuff. But he found out he was bipolar through that, and it's like I've been diagnosed bipolar for a long, like, well, they didn't diagnose me at that time, but they knew, like, they thought I was bipolar. They just never gave me an actual diagnosis for a while. And it was weird because like people treat you differently even there with a mental health stigma. And like he didn't treat me differently, but like a lot of people, like even in the Kingdom Hall, like even though like it's the most diverse group, have like most diverse religion and everything, it's like mental health isn't really. And that really stuck with me because people would be like, I'm walking on eggshells around you. And like that always, like, it's like they like read a little pamphlet about like how to act around people. It was weird, but it was like cult mentality.
So you felt like you were treated differently because you had been labeled in some way, even inside the organization.
Yeah, and I was like, because I'm labeled this, I might as well do it. So I'm like this wild kid, and me and the other kids, the girls and the guys, we went to the beach, and we came back, and I'm like sunburnt. I have my hair spiked up. I have like, and later we went to the meeting, and they're like, we saw all of you. I'm standing with them. They're like, we saw all of you, and with a worldly kid. Who was it? And I'm like, they're like, worldly kid. It was me. I was the worldly kid. And it's like they labeled, like I was that bad influence that they were talking about that was in the world. And but it was like, oh, it was me. I was like, oh, forget it. I just like gave up after that. I was like, yep, I'm the worldly kid. Everyone hates me.
Mikey needs a tattoo, worldly kid.
But it's weird because like I left like around 18, 19. I and then never talked to him. And then like but they would still come to my dad's house, my dad's store, and I was over there, and one of the guys who's like looking at my arms, and he can see like my tattoos, and he's like, that's a cool tattoo." I'm like, "What are you talking about, man? You're supposed to hate this stuff. Why are you trying to get on my good side?" It's like, that's a sin I thought to you and everything. It's like, now I guess tattoos are okay if they're before you come in. Like, I can't, it's just the hypocrisy. Like, I can't stand it. Like, you never know what they're gonna flip. Now you can have a beard.
Right. They just
Like,
justify what they need to.
yeah. It's like, well, we were running low on members, so now you can have a beard.
Hmm. So how did you end up? You got baptized at 17. You said you left at 18.
I left
So
at like between 18 and 19, I
okay.
left. Yeah.
So how did things flip for you so quickly? What I mean, that's a big change going
I,
from I'm gonna do this thing, I'm gonna make sure I do it to yeah, peace out, I'm done.
Well, it was building up because for a long time I didn't like it. Like as a like from like maybe probably like 12, I didn't really like it. But it was just like I'm like, no, I want to have my family. I want to keep my family. And then at the end I'm like, I can't do this. They're like at the baptism, like, for the rest of your life, you're choosing this decision. I'm like, oh hell no. I was like, no, you have to do this for. I'm like, I can't do this forever. I'm like, for like after 1 year of them, like, you need to do a prayer. Like, I never gave a prayer, but they're badgering me like every single one. Like, you need to give a prayer. You need to give talk. You need to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's
And
usually pretty quick that they start
and like
badgering.
when I was 16 or so, I gave one talk, and I gave talks before that, but this one talk, like, they said it and I just didn't feel right about it. I didn't like whatever it was covering. I felt like it was like basically bashing myself. And like I went up there and I stood there and I was like, and I was like, fuck this. And I just like took my paper and I just walked off stage, and it's so dead silent. And then when the speaker comes back up, he goes, "Number three talk," and he just moved or whatever, like the next speaker, he's like, "Next person," and he just like erased like my experience.
Oh yeah, it's just next man up. Let's move
Yeah.
on.
And it's like he didn't say anything, just like no advice or anything. I was like, man, that sucks. So like no participation trophies here.
No, not at all. So honestly, it's an interesting
But
point you bring up about giving a talk that is condemning you. I think that unfortunately there's a lot of people that have to give talks that are
and they and
self-condemning.
yeah, and it's like they'll do it, and it's like I was like, I can't do this. Like it just gave me so much anxiety, like to do that, and I just walked off stage and like, but like after like between and the whole like prayer thing, but I was just like, I don't want to do this. So like I kind of was smoking a little bit, like with different like my bad influences, but I found a group of Jehovah's Witnesses by my work, and I just went up to their door, like their car, and I blew smoke in their window. So I just like made sure they saw me because because I was like contemplating, I'm like, what sin can I do to get out of this? I'm like,
Ah, so that was
I don't
your
want to
way
like,
after baptism out was just to go up to them, blow smoke in their car, and be like, "I'm done."
yeah, because I'm like, you have to either like you have to have sex, you have to do something to get out. It seems like otherwise they're just like bothering you. So I'm like, I want them to not bother me. I don't want them to come to my door, bother me, like keep asking like to come back. I'm like, I want them to be just like gone. So I did that, and then like my dad came up like a few weeks later, and he's like, "Do you want to be a Jehovah's Witness?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "Oh, okay." And it was just like, boop, like
And then it was just gone. So he didn't
yeah.
try to
I'm
keep
like,
you
and it
there or
just
anything.
no. And I was like, that's it. I was like so angry at the world after that for a little while.
Well, I'm sure. I mean, you just didn't know that you could have walked
Yeah,
away.
I didn't know I had that, and like
Not really.
Yeah, and I didn't know that was an option. Like it kind of was hard because like I didn't know that was an option exactly at that time. It was confusing to me.
Well, sure,
And
it may have even been presented as an option to some degree, but when you're listening to all that messaging and having it drilled into your head all the time, it doesn't seem like a viable option at all. So
yeah,
I
and
understand.
moving and like bringing it towards today, it's like I'm like 37, but I just like just in the last like 2 or 3 months got diagnosed like autistic and ADHD. So you throw that combination in there and you're like, well, communication skills that suck or lack, it's like I have communications like difficulties and you put me in a cult and it's like you give me these options that are like not really options. So I'm accepting those options because
Well,
I'm thinking
being word
logical.
literal, right? You
Yeah, I'm
mentioned it
taking,
earlier.
yeah.
So you're told you're going to lose your family. So to you, you're like, well, I'm going to lose my family, even the
And I'm
non-JW parts.
I take it literally like everyone. I mean, your family, your whole family. I'm like, I have a lot of family. I'm like, that's a lot of people to lose. That's like, I haven't even met them all. I still haven't met them all yet. Like,
Well,
I have people that come from Colombia up here, and I still haven't met all of them. It's like it's still ongoing,
well, and that's
and
what
it's
they're
like,
saying, right?
yeah,
Family. You didn't see the nuance in it.
mm-mm.
I mean, it was just you're told you're going to lose your family. You don't want to lose your family. So I guess I got to do this thing, even though I don't want to.
Yeah, and it's just like okay. But then after, it's like you're angry at the world. You do all this stuff, all sorts of cognitive dissonance because it's like I grew up in it, so that's like supposed to be your foundation. And then like everything in the world like is against like is saying that's wrong.
You know, it's interesting. Your dad entered it as an adult who was looking not for it to be his foundation, but to be an escape from something else that was an escape, so to speak. And for you, though, it was your foundation. You grew up in this thing, your dad didn't. And so your dad doesn't really know what it's like to grow up as a JW kid. That's a tough life. And a lot of parents who join later don't know what they're really putting their kids through, and then the effects on the backside after those kids leave, because it's been a really tough path for them. So you
Because
had
like
a totally different experience than your dad.
yeah, because like I remember being like 4 and like I went to a pre-K that was a school for them. Like the teachers were being trained, but upstairs was also a nail salon. So they would paint our nails for holidays. So the first one I got Halloween, and then I get in trouble for Halloween nails because I can't have that. And my dad's yelling at my mom, and my mom's yelling at my dad because I have Halloween nails, and I'm over here as like a little kid going, "What's wrong with this?"
Yeah, I was just having fun at school, mom and dad.
Yeah.
Why are you all so bent out of shape?
It's like, oh my god, Halloween is evil. It's like I have this on my hands. So then they
Um,
painted them full colors.
can I ask, did your dad ever, I know he really was involved in this thing to some degree. Did he ever move up the ranks, become a servant, an elder, or anything?
So when we lived in Kansas and I was like until 7, he wasn't. And then when we moved here in Florida, he was involved. He was like, this is it. Like, cause like I was arguing with him one time and he's like, he like was arguing with me and we're in the car and he shook me. He's like, I'm trying to save your soul. And it's like, oh shit, he believes in this stuff. Like I'm like 12 and I'm thinking everyone's fake and everyone's imagining this shit's real. And I'm like, he believes in this. I'm like, oh God. But he
That
was an
was probably
elder.
pretty jarring, wasn't it?
Yeah, because I'm thinking everyone's fake, but I'm like, no, not everyone's fake, I guess. So, huh.
Yeah, there are people who really believe it. He clearly was someone who really believed it. And did that push him up the ranks?
And he was an elder. Yeah, he was an elder. And that felt like a pressure too, because like my other friend that was his elder son, like he had to go. He was everything. Like we had to be clock. We were the clock watchers for the talks.
Oh, did you get to ring the bell? I used to do that.
Yeah, like you ring the bell. Like you want, like it's like you have to do good just to get like that one. Like that's your fun. Like like that's kind of sad when you think about it. But that was fun. Like
Oh,
you
that's
get to
awesome. You got a stopwatch and a bell and authority.
yeah, you get to tell them when to get off stage.
Oh yeah, as soon as it hits 5 minutes, I don't care if you're on your last word. Ding.
Yeah. So
If you want to tell your story on the podcast, buy merch, or get more information, go to shunnedpodcast.com.
but it's like you got to do all you got to do things. It wasn't all bad. Like there was this one brother that lived here and he was a football player before. He went to the Super Bowl. He had one of those Super Bowl rings. And he was fun to go out and service with because like after like 20 minutes, he's like, "Oh, it's break time," and we he'd go to the same break place, and he'd spend like an hour there, and then you go like a half an hour more, and it's like, "Oh, day's over."
Yeah, I mean, there were people like that were kind of fun, and to some degree, it's just like the relief from the pain of everything else that you were doing or the normal service experience. But yeah, there were some people out there who were kind of fun to hang out with at times.
And my dad's like, "He's wasting too much time on his breaks. We need to be doing more service." I'm like, "No, I don't want to
Uh,
do more service."
what was your break spot?
It changed all the time,
Oh,
but
okay.
they tried to like make it as short as possible.
Yeah, boo.
Like yeah, most of them were trying to make it short, but like I would always try to get in the groups that would make it like long.
Hmm. Yeah, me too. Uh, and when I was the one driving, I certainly made sure we took breaks, and they were as fun as they could be. I hated that
Yeah.
stuff. Um, so your dad was an elder, and then you, his kid, get baptized, but then you kind of take a stand against it a little bit. I mean,
hmm
so was your
So
dad an
that
elder then?
so that's the part where it's weird because like I'm right now is like doing this podcast with you. I am getting diagnosed autistic and ADHD and really really seeing what that means for like my past and like how I can cope with tomorrow. And it's kind of like when I left 18, I was angry and I was pissed at the world and I'm like, fuck everything. I'm an atheist now or whatever that means. So
Mhm.
I'm like, there is no God and I'm angry. And he's like, oh, and he stopped going. He stopped going to the meetings. And I'm like feeling kind of bad. I'm like, why aren't you going? He's like, no, don't worry. And then like I'm like 27 and my one of my friends that I grew up with and my mom raised based like she was like her second mom. Her mom was down for a visit or something and she's like, "Do you know why your dad stopped going to the meetings?" I'm like, "No." She's like, "He stopped going because the elders said it's either choose your son or choose the meetings." And he said, "Well, fuck you." And he chose you instead. And I was like, "Oh, what?" It's kind of like shocking. It was like, "Oh shit." Like, like it's shocking because I'm like, he chose me. Like, I spent all this time in that group thinking he wasn't going to choose me. And then I left thinking I'm going to lose everyone. And then he chose me. And it's sad to say that, like, oh yeah, that is shocking because most people are like, that seems logical, but in Jehovah's Witnesses, that doesn't seem logical.
No, in Jehovah's Witnesses, parents choose the organization on a daily basis and will gladly shun their kids. So, yeah, I guess it's kind of interesting, really, when you think about it, Mikey. You chose your dad to some degree growing up. You were doing the thing that he was kind of into. And when push came to shove and you left, it sounds like he chose you.
Yeah. and it was it was helpful. It was good to hear. Like I would have never heard that from him. He probably would have never said that.
So he never let you know, but you found that out from someone else.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And
He
it
just
was,
quit. He just cold turkey, never went
yeah,
back.
like he just stopped. Like now, like recently, because they're trying to lax the shunning, and because they're trying to get members, you know. If
Sure.
Yeah, I know it's like they're laxing the shunning by changing the words, but they're like talking to him again. I'm like, you need to leave, like, because I don't like it.
Well, now was he? You said they're talking to him again.
Yeah, they're
Was he
talking.
disfellowshipped or anything?
I don't think he was disfellowshipped. I
He
think
just
they just
faded.
like, yeah, he just faded. Like I was the one, like I did that, and then like later, like in the last 6 months, I started doing comedy, and in my set, like everyone, like I went to a comedy boot camp, like you got to throw that in somewhere. You got to do that. So it's like it's part like it's like because it's kind of like it's interesting because like being autistic, like it helped. It's like I'm not like all angry about being a Jehovah's Witness because I'm also bipolar. And being bipolar, you have a lot of vices and a lot of issues sometimes. And it's kind of like it helped me being like that, like an impulsive, addictive personality to hate the thing I was supposed to be addicted to, first of all. And then second of all, like I had a routine. Like I went like back then. Like you went to the meetings Tuesday, Thursday. You went preaching Sunday or Saturday. You went preaching Saturday, and you went to church Sunday. So it's like I knew where I was supposed to be like half the time, or I was going to school as a kid. So it's like I knew where I was supposed to be. So I figured out my timing that way.
And routine can be very comforting to people on the autism spectrum or people with
Yeah,
ADHD. Often routine can help. So yeah,
and
it could be a
only
good thing.
after I got thrown out of my routine did they actually diagnose me autistic. And it's like, well, yeah, I had a perfect routine for this, man.
Yeah, I get that.
It wasn't like the ideal routine, but it was a routine.
People with autism will talk about, or sometimes ADHD or whatever, will talk about masking and things like that.
Yeah,
You look back at your life as a witness. Do you think that that kind of played a role in some of your experiences, whether it's masking or just being on the spectrum or having ADHD or whatever?
yeah, and it was, and like I learned what masking was like in the last 2 years, and I'm like, yeah, I masked a lot, and it's because like I masked from Jehovah's Witnesses, and then I had my double life where I masked the Jehovah's Witnesses from the kids, and then and it's like, where do you like? And then like I left, and then it's like going into the world, and they're like, "Who are you?" And I'm like, "I don't want you to know this shit. I'm like a double agent, man. Like, it's like I was a con man."
Well, and to some degree, you might even be like, you know what? I'm not even sure. I've been masking so long. I'm not sure
Yeah.
who I am.
And then like I had a lot of mania when I was on my younger years, and now I'm like in more of the like I don't have that, and it's more of the depressive side or the like normal side, and it's like so I was a completely different person after I left because I was always up, and it's like you got to be up because if you're not happy, you're dying.
Sure. I mean, they definitely keep you rolling a certain way.
But now I'm like, okay, now I have to live without mania and all that extra because it gives you energy. Like it's like having your own energy source.
Yeah.
And now it's like I don't have my own energy source. I'm like, this sucks. Like living normal.
Well, sure. I'm sure some of that is also just changes throughout the years
Yeah, and it's all
and
like it's
such.
just like progressing in age, but it's like okay, so like you just get it's like, but it's like it's accepting like what happened in the past and like living with it and just doing whatever you can and moving forward.
Sure. Well, let's talk about that a little bit. The whole like moving forward. So it sounds like you've kind of had a journey, I guess, after Watchtower from like 18-ish to now of what, self-discovery?
Um, in a way,
Mm-hmm.
I learned all the like when I left, like I got a girlfriend outside, and like she taught me how to drink, but she taught me how to drink like if you're an alcoholic. Because like if you take like a cranberry vodka and you put like I'd mix it, it's like 1/6 juice and the rest is all liquor.
Sure.
And that was like the normal drink. So I'm drinking hard because this is what they say is like this is what they say is like a normal drink. And then I'm drinking hard because it's like I feel bad about myself because it's like in Jehovah's Witnesses they make you compete. There is no competing with yourself. It's competing with the person that's doing better than you.
Mhm. And there's
And
always something you're not doing, so you're never good enough.
yeah, so you're always it's like that hamster wheel of like you're tired, like you're just never going to get better. You're never going to be good enough for anything, so you're always running and it's like so then it was like a lot of like destruction and getting into things. And then like I went to college after like I went to college. That was interesting to see college because I dropped out of school from homeschooling from like ninth high school. So I never went to high school. So I went to college, and the first college I went to was a normal one, and I couldn't figure out the structure, like the classes and having 4 classes, and it was too much. So I went to Kaiser, and it's a 1 class a month type of class, and it's just like you are doing that all like every day and all the time. Like you're just focusing on one thing, and that hyper focus helped me actually succeed.
Interesting. And so what'd you go to school for?
Software engineering
Okay.
because it's technology, which is logical, which I like.
Understood. So you got your what'd you get? What kind of degree did you end up getting?
I got a bachelor's in software engineering. Yeah.
Okay.
Most
Very cool.
places just call it computer science.
Okay. So you went to school. I don't know. Have you had relationships or anything after leaving?
So I had like 2 real relationships after leaving one, and then like that didn't work out. Like during that relationship, I found out I was bipolar. We had it was a lot of control and like just not really being myself. It was a great experience and everything, and I had no hard feelings, but it wasn't like set for me. And then I went a few years without anyone and just like messed around. And then I met my now wife, and she was pretty cool and like like, but we both have we both have similar paths. Just she wasn't a Jehovah's Witness. Like we both like landed on each other because we both listened to each other the most.
Okay. And how long have you
And
guys
we
been
both are
together?
and we're both like accepting, like
Mhm.
we both like accept each other for whatever. But we've been married for 2 years and we were dating for 8.
Wow. So you guys been together for a decade.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty cool. And so life today, what do you like about life today? I mean, I know you mentioned briefly comedy, I think. So
Mhm.
what are you into today? What's good about Mikey's world?
So like right now I'm just like I'm doing comedy. I'm trying to get more of a structure because like before I did like let's see, before June of this year, like I was in a big depression for a long time and I let everything fall apart. So I've been like I was like I want to do that comedy, so I did a comedy boot camp. I was like I want to be confident in myself because that's what I lack the most is confidence, because Jehovah's Witnesses don't want you to be, they want you to be confident in telling their word and their truth, but they don't want you to be confident enough to think that you are confident in yourself.
Yeah,
It's like,
you're
that's
good
too
for nothing,
much. You
slave of
gotta
Jehovah.
bring yourself down a notch, and you can't have confidence.
Mm-hmm.
So I did the comedy boot camp. I really like that, and I've been going to open mics and getting comfortable on stage again, from and like in front of people and talking about stuff that's more my story.
Wow. So this story in comedic form, so to speak.
Yeah.
Okay, that's very cool.
Yeah, and I've done guitar, and I've done art, and I think this is like my next progression in like doing like something artistic.
Well, I know we talked a little bit before the interview, so I'm going to see if I can get the video and audio of your comedy performance.
Yeah.
We'll play that as soon as the interview is over, so that people can see, you know, here's an ex-JW comedian going up talking about his own story for the first time. I mean, that's a very vulnerable and brave, courageous thing to do, which is very cool.
Yeah, and I feel like that it's weird because like I have like bipolar, I have ADHD, autism, all these things have impulsivity, and and then growing up Jehovah's Witnesses is very black and white, like it's all or nothing. So like my first time going, like that was my first time really like going up on stage in front of anyone, is the set, and like my parents were there, like they didn't know what I was gonna do. Like I just like was like, I'm just gonna go for it, like, so. But they
That's
were
awesome.
supportive, like everyone's been supportive, like, so it's just, like it didn't wreck them for me to like bash anything.
Well, and one of the things that I think is really cool is that you've got this group of other people who are also learning this thing and also exposing themselves in new ways through this boot camp. So you've got other people who are also being vulnerable and open, and it sounds like you've got a good group of supportive people there. It's kind of like my wife working with the circus locally and doing aerials and such. It's like you've got she's got this great group of people there who they're performers and they're willing to put themselves out there and they're willing to do well, and they're also willing to not do so well in front of other people at times, because that's life and part of performance as well. And they pick each other up and they help each other and they're encouraging. That's a really cool, safe environment to play in, even though you're doing something that might feel so unsafe initially.
Yeah, and that was part of the reason I wanted to do it, was because it's a safe space, but it's also public.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like I think that's kind of cool, because like it's kind of hard for me to be myself being an ex-Jehovah's Witness,
Sure.
like then like mental health, and it's like I can't. It's like when I'm like looking for a job, like I can't really talk. Like you can't, like those two topics are not like the first thing you want to talk about, like when you're talking to a job employer.
Sure.
So I'm like, where else can I put this? And like this, my like those are the two topics that are biggest in my life, though. So it's like, where can I stick those that I can actually have that outlet?
Well, I think you found a place today too, that I hope has felt like a safe
Yeah,
place to do so. It's also kind of public, and I'm glad
but
that you got
it's
to come
finding
today.
those safe places.
Yes, yes. So I'm glad that you got to come today and be you. And you know, I hope you feel like you've been able to be open and honest with people and talk about your story some. Is there anything that I didn't ask that you want to make sure you talk about, or anything that you have that you want to that we didn't get to that you want to say?
Um, let's see. Well, like if I would talk to like those people that shun me,
Mhm.
um, like I have no hard feelings. Like, you know, you did something that you thought was right at the time. Like, and if you see the light and you leave or something, I don't know if we have anything in common now. But it's like, I'm glad if you left, you know, like if you found something that you can focus on that's about you instead of this group of 8 or it's like 10 men now. It's like that are in the shadows, but not in the shadows. They're the ones running it, but they're lying to the government and saying they're not. And, you know, it's like everyone's better. Everyone is, their self-worth is more than leaving a life like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Love to see all those people, or as many as can, or would be able to leave and be able to, well, like you're trying to do, be their true self, figure out who that is, and how to express where they've been and who they've been, and then hopefully grow to move on and become who they can be, not just who they were told they had to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of it, is that getting to that point where because like in the ex-Jehovah Witness culture, like there's the PME, the PMO, the POMI, you know, and it's like it feels like you have to go through each one of those acronyms before you get to the POMO and you're physically out and mentally out.
Yep. It's a path, right? And it's not necessarily an easy one. It's not necessarily linear. Sometimes you fall back and such. That's okay. It's just about, growth isn't always linear, and that's uh,
Mm-hmm.
part of the human experience. So I'm glad to see that people like yourself are finding their way out. Anything in particular that's been a help to you?
Like once I felt okay, like to look up, like ex-Jehovah's Witness stuff, and I started looking up ex-Jehovah's Witness stuff. Like I started looking up podcasts. I found the Shunned podcast on YouTube. I like ex Jehovah Witness, like ex-JW Caleb,
Hmm.
and like JW thoughts. But I was seeing other people talk about their stories, like on Sean's podcast, like their stories about what they experienced. And it's kind of like, I experienced some of that, but I didn't experience all of it. But it's like other people that grew up, you know, that had the same issues or that had same like stuff. And
Yeah,
that's
you're not
part of the
alone.
fun. Yeah. And it's part of the fun about being like going to the comedy open mics is like all the other comedians, like they have issues too. And it's like, they're like, yeah, I have depression, or they're like, yeah, whatever. And it's kind of fun because they're like, they're being just as open from a different point of view, and they're supporting you and you're supporting them. And you don't have to have a cult to do that.
Oh, absolutely not. I think that's where we'll end this. We'll end it here. We'll make sure and include your comedy set as soon as we end this, and people can listen to it and watch you go out for your first time, which is that's just cool as heck to be able to go out there and do that thing, and you should be very proud of what you've been accomplishing.
Thank you.